You check your bank account before you fall asleep. Not because you need to, because some part of you doesn't believe the number will still be there in the morning. That small motion, thumb on the screen, eyes scanning, breath held for half a second, happens millions of times a night, across nearly every income bracket that exists. People making $40,000 a year do it. People making $400,000 a year do it too. The number changes. The behavior never does. Because the fear behind it was never really about the money. It was about control. Most people don't fail to save $100,000 because they don't earn enough. They fail because saving was never the goal their mind was optimizing for. Their mind was optimizing for relief, one of the most expensive things a human being can buy, month after month, without ever noticing the total. Somewhere between your first paycheck and today, you learned that spending money makes the bad feeling go away faster than saving it does. A stressful shift ends, and a food delivery app opens itself, almost on its own. A hard week closes, and a package shows up on Friday you don't fully remember ordering. None of it feels like weakness. It feels like a small, deserved exhale after a week that asked too much of you. The real problem isn't the money. It never was. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. $10,000 in savings should be an easy milestone for someone earning $50,000 a year, less than 5 months of income. In practice, most people never get there, not because the math is hard, but because every dollar arrives already assigned to a feeling before it's assigned to a purpose. Rent gets paid because fear says it must. A night out gets paid because exhaustion says it's earned. Savings gets whatever emotion has nothing left to say. Psychologists call part of this present bias, weighing today's discomfort as unbearable and tomorrow's reward as almost imaginary. A future version of you, with $10,000 sitting quietly in an account, doesn't feel real enough to compete with a version of you that's tired right now. So tired you wins, almost every time. Not because you're undisciplined. Your brain was never built to make 5-year decisions with a nervous system designed for immediate threats. Someone gets a raise, $4,000 to $5,000 more a year. For about 3 weeks, it feels like breathing room. Then the car gets upgraded because the old one doesn't match the new salary. Within 4 months, the extra income is gone, and the person feels exactly as stretched as before the raise ever happened. This has a name: hedonic adaptation. The finish line moves the instant you reach it. It gets worse at higher incomes, not better. Someone earning $35,000 a year and someone earning $95,000 a year can feel identically anxious, one unexpected bill from panic, because the second person's expenses grew exactly as fast as their paycheck did. Rich and wealthy are not the same word. Rich describes what enters your account. Wealthy describes what's left after everything else has taken its share. Wealth doesn't need an audience. $50,000 saved is where most people start to feel something shift, if they get there at all. Enough to survive a job loss for 6 or 7 months without panic. This is where mental accounting quietly sabotages people. Money in a vacation fund feels untouchable, even while money labeled checking gets spent without a second thought, despite being the exact same dollars in the exact same bank. The mind draws borders around cash that don't exist anywhere except inside the mind itself. You've felt this, waiting for payday like it's a finish line instead of just a Thursday. Feeling a flash of guilt the moment a purchase confirmation lands, then talking yourself out of it within 90 seconds. Looking completely fine from the outside while privately feeling one bad month from unraveling. None of this makes you irresponsible. It makes you human, running financial software built for a world with far fewer temptations than this one. Somewhere around $100,000, something interesting happens, and it's the reason so few people ever arrive here. At a conservative 7% average annual return, $100,000 invested can generate roughly $7,000 a year without a single additional deposit. Not retirement. But it's the first moment money starts working a shift alongside you instead of only existing to be spent. This is precisely where most people quit, right before compounding starts pulling its own weight, because the growth in the early years is nearly invisible. This might be the most important sentence in this video. The first $100,000 is almost entirely about behavior. Every dollar after that is increasingly about math. Compounding doesn't care how hard you work to save it. It only cares how long it's been left alone. $250,000 changes the emotional texture of a life in a way $50,000 never could. At 7%, that's roughly $17,500 a year in growth, more than many people's annual rent. This is where comfort and control start to diverge. Comfort is a nice dinner, a subscription that makes Tuesday feel less gray. Control is having enough distance from your paycheck that a bad month at work doesn't threaten your entire identity. Most people spend their lives chasing comfort, believing it's the same thing as control. It never was. Comfort resets every payday. Control compounds. This is also where sunk cost and anchoring do quiet damage. Staying in a job that's hollowing you out because you've already invested 6 years there. Or measuring your spending against whatever your highest earning friend spends instead of your own goals. Your bank balance is not a reflection of your worth, but your nervous system never got that memo, and it reacts to a low number the same way it would react to a predator. At $500,000, the math starts to feel almost unfair, in a good way. 7% growth is now $35,000 a year, close to what many households live on entirely. This is the threshold where salary and ownership finally separate. Salary is what someone pays you to show up. Ownership is what keeps paying you whether you show up or not. Most people spend their 20s and 30s maximizing salary, chasing raises and titles, without ever building a single dollar of ownership alongside it. Then they wonder, at 45, why more income never translated into more peace. This is where status signaling becomes one of the most expensive habits a person can carry. The car isn't purchased because it performs better. It's purchased because of what it says in a parking lot at work. Status is spending money to be seen. Security is spending money to be safe. They compete for the exact same dollars, and status almost always wins first. The same force that made $10,000 feel impossible at the very beginning of this story. Somewhere, right now, someone just got approved for a raise and immediately opened an apartment listing $800 above their old rent, because staying in the old one after a raise would have felt like failure. The psychology becomes more dangerous later. A 24-year-old overspending on takeout is a rounding error. A 44-year-old who has spent 2 decades treating every raise as permission to upgrade has quietly spent 20 years compounding nothing at all, while the version of them who chose ownership instead of image would be sitting on a very different number by now. Time is the single most valuable asset in this story, and it's the one asset nobody can ever buy back once it's spent. There's an investor, somewhere, checking a portfolio during a red week in the market, the kind of week that makes headlines feel apocalyptic. The old instinct, shaped by loss aversion, wants to sell everything and hide in cash. But the account that stays untouched through the ugly weeks is the same account that eventually crosses $100,000, then $250,000, then further, while the account that panics and exits never gets the chance to compound at all. Consumption feels good today and disappears by tomorrow. Investment feels like nothing today and becomes everything if it's simply left alone. $1 million is where the conversation stops being theoretical. Using a widely cited 4% withdrawal guideline, $1 million can reasonably generate around $40,000 a year indefinitely, without the principal ever running out under typical historical conditions. $40,000 a year, arriving whether you work or not, whether you're sick or well, whether the economy is kind or cruel. Not luxury. The quiet, boring version of freedom. The kind that looks like being able to leave a toxic job without a 6-month spiral of fear first. And this is where the identity shift finally arrives. Somewhere along the way, Most people accidentally built their entire identity out of their spending. The car, the apartment, the vacations posted with just enough casualness to look effortless. Spending, unlike ownership, requires constant renewal. It needs to be refreshed weekly to keep functioning as proof that you're doing fine. Ownership doesn't need renewal. It just sits there, quietly compounding, indifferent to whether anyone notices it at all. Relief and happiness are not the same feeling, even though they arrive using almost identical body language. Most people have spent years accepting relief as a permanent substitute for happiness, because relief, at least, is available on demand. None of this means the answer is deprivation. The people who actually reach $100,000 and keep going past it aren't the ones who white-knuckle their way through denial. They're the ones who quietly stop needing every purchase to prove something. Go back to the very beginning of this story. The phone, the dark room, the thumb checking a balance before sleep. That motion was never really about verifying a number. It was a person searching for evidence that they were safe. And the freeing truth is that no number was ever going to provide that evidence permanently, because safety was never going to be found in the account. It was going to be found in the relationship between that person and their own fear. A relationship built slowly, through boring, repeated, unglamorous decisions that compound exactly like money does, until one day they aren't checking the balance at midnight anymore. They already know what it says. And for the first time in years, that's enough. Financial freedom was never really about the number in the account. It begins the moment money stops being the thing your nervous system checks for permission to feel okay.